Hello friends, I'm Tony and I'm here to share with you the gospel moment that I found in Jonah chapter 2. Now before you understand what happens in Jonah chapter 2, you need to know what's going on in chapter 1. You see, God gives Jonah a very clear instruction to go and take a message of hope to the people of Nineveh. Yet he doesn't like those instructions, so he tries to run away from God, and in the midst of running away from God, he's thrown from a boat into the sea and swallowed by a great fish. And that is where we find him in Jonah chapter 2. Now, when I look for the gospel moment in any passage, the first question I ask myself is, what is the sin condition that is being addressed by this passage? And I see it very clearly in the fact that Jonah, this whole chapter, is just him crying out to God and praying to God in the middle of his most difficult circumstance. How many of us do the absolute opposite? A lot of us don't like to cry out to God in the middle of our difficult circumstances because of pride or because we just don't think that he's actually wanting to hear us. We tend not to cry out to him or to pray to him in these kind of times. Yet that is exactly what he wants us to do. That takes me to the key verse that I want to share with you guys from the passage today. Jonah chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, and it says this: Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. God heard the prayer that Jonah had for him, and that is exactly what he wants to do for you today. If you're listening to this message, I want you to know God wants to hear your voice. He wants to hear your prayer to him. The only way that that happens is through Jesus. You see, the second question that I ask myself when I'm looking for the gospel moment in every single passage is, how do I see Jesus in this passage? And it's in those same verses. The whole reason that we can come to God in the middle of our difficult times is because Jesus took the most difficult time for you and for me. Him being perfect, having lived a perfect life, went to the cross as someone who wasn't perfect in your place and in my place, so that when we have these difficult times, we can trust that God wants to hear our cry, that he wants to supply our need, that he wants to be our hope because he supplied our greatest need and he was our greatest hope through Jesus by him going on the cross. I don't know what kind of difficulties you're going through in your life, but I encourage you to cry out to God in the middle of those difficulties. Don't let pride get in the way. Don't let doubt get in the way. Cry out to him. Jonah, we can see that that is definitely what he did with God. Not only do we see it in those verses, but I'm going to ask you guys to go down to the second half of verse 6, and it says this: I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever, yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord, my God. God wants to bring up your life from the pit of darkness and despair that you find yourself in. I don't know the kind of circumstances that you're in right now, but I want you to remember, God is your only hope in the midst of that. And he wants to pull you out of that. I'd encourage you guys to read the entire chapter 2 of Jonah. Go ahead, pause right now. The second thing that I ask myself when I find, when I'm looking for the gospel moment, how do I see Jesus in this passage? He wants to be our hope. I want you to know that God wants to be your hope today. And that hope is found in Jesus. Not only does he want to hear you, but he wants to heal you through a relationship with Jesus. So I'd encourage you to start a relationship with Jesus right now. You don't need me, just right there where you're praying, tell God, I want to start a relationship with Jesus. And let us know. We'd love to know your journey and where you are. And so if you want to know more about what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus, leave a comment below. And I'd love to reach out to you and share with you what God could do in your life. Until next time, bye.